What's happening, everybody, and welcome to Speekygeeky. I, as always, am your host, Mr. Geek-E. I am very excited because our guest on today's show is someone who works directly with Transformers, TMNT, Silverhawks, Thundercats, the worst, and a handful of other incredibly fun stuff we can't discuss just yet. So yeah, this is sure to be an incredibly fun show. And of course, I'm talking about none other than Super7's brand manager, Mondo. Welcome, Mondo.
Hey, Geeky. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm loving that there's some of the accessory pieces that are kind of not full-on vehicles. I like the vehicles too, obviously. But, with Silverhawks as an example, we had the throne. And, and now we have that with Power Rangers too, where you got Zed's throne. Is there potentially more of that we might see in the world of Thundercats, in the world of, there's some really fun ones that I can think of, even, Transformers and TMNT also.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for the particular brands that we've gotten into a place where fans have really started to build out their core of their favorite characters, or just the ensemble cast of characters that everyone loves from those particular series. So starting with the characters and then kind of building out to those ancillary things and vehicles, and like in some cases, like what we saw with TMNT, the Party Wagon or Thunder Tank, are definitely things that we want to expand out to as much as possible.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you have, when you were growing up, a handful of favorite shows that just stick out to you as being your top tier of the things that you would go to that you'd always want to watch when you get home? I'd also say with the toy lines, right, that you would collect because you probably watched the show in some of those cases.
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in the broadcast days, giving away there a little bit of my age. So I was mostly just beholden to whatever might come up during those peak hours of kid viewing TV. But for the most part, yeah, anything boys action, I really just kind of sunk my teeth into and was really all in terms of like collecting. I was a big fan of Transformers, G.I. Joe, Turtles later on. I got to experience a little bit of Robotech, huge thing for me. And then from there, it just expanded out to Masters. I had a ton of those guys. And every now and then I would just get into different figure lines that were really cool, really easy to collect. Since I was an artist and I had a passion for like creativity and drawing, I'd always be intrigued by cool character types, into like battle beasts. Really liked a lot of monster toys, and humanoids was cool. Got a little bit of Power Rangers as well. So many of these lines I just got into deep. I was a decent consumer of the cartoon experience, but man, was I really into the toys more than anything else. I would always pour myself into the toys and create experiences, like let my imagination run wild around the toys. And oddly enough too, I'd say that I collected a lot of toys, a lot of bootleg toys. So I appreciate a lot of the kind of the homage toys that are out today that are like bootleg. So I did collect a lot of bootleg toys as a younger kid.
Mm-hmm. I think I collected a lot of the bootlegs too without realizing I was collecting the bootlegs.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was, especially when it comes to like Inhumanoids, right? Where those are a higher price point, where it's like my parents were like, you're already getting all the turtles. Yeah, something that's not called Inhumanoids, but it's passable.
Yeah. And back then, a lot of times you have to go over to friends' houses, and it may be like their dad was super into helping them collect everything, and then you got to enjoy the experience that way, or be like, hey man, come on, let's trade for your third copy of this character. I really need him.
Right. I mean, I think for a large part, that was a lot of folks' experience with the Turtles, right? Where because, you had the four core, right? You had the original brothers, but if you didn't come in right at the beginning, other than the Toon Turtles, it was very much like you are getting a variant. So what I've discovered with talking with a bunch of folks is that many people didn't have all four of the brothers in their original form. It was like, I have Leonardo, that's like original Leonardo, and then I've got Punker Don, and I've got Undercover Raph, or, whatever it is.
Right.
You've got all the different versions. You've compiled them together, but everybody is different, and everyone has their favorites because they have so many memories attached to having that figure.
For me, I don't know how it happened, but I had the four original Turtles. Maybe it's I got in early And I was set because of that. We get into these discussions here at Super 7 just because we're all fans of this stuff, and that's what helps bring this product to life in this way, because we're all super passionate about what we do. So for me, like comparing notes with other people here, I didn't have an opportunity to ever go to Toys R Us. It was pretty rare for me because my family just like, it's just a toy store. Why do we go? So I bought all my turtles from the mall and KB Toy Store, which was super limited in terms of assortment and what's available there. And I just had to sort of work with what I had, or like I just have those opportune moments where I walked up and the guy had just been stocking the pegs and putting up, but there was literally one stripe of turtles back in the day there. I remember that pretty well. And it's just like, you just get what you get. I got all the original turtles, but I probably ended up with most of the peg warmers from the original line just because there wasn't too many options. I was just picking what's there. Rat King, I got Hookman, Wingnuts, which were all pretty awesome for the most part, but there was a lot of other characters that I was like, where was he? I was always looking for him.
As that line went on, it became more and more difficult to find some of those too. But I mean, that's the thing with those peg warmers, is that even the peg warmers are still awesome freaking figures.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And some of those hard to find were actually the alternate versions of the turtles for me. I never really ended up seeing those on the pegs there when I go into shop.
I asked this as kid you and adult you. Did you have a grail or like a white whale kind of character that you always wanted as a kid and couldn't get? And as an adult, is that a different character that meets your list, or is that still the same?
I guess there'd be two. There'd be probably me, the little kid me, dreaming of getting the G.I. Joe flag, because I'd always go to visit family and friends like in Mexico, because I've lived in Southern California all my life. And there would always be this promo giveaway for the flag on TV there in Mexico, because they'd get broadcast from San Diego. And I'd always try to somehow get into this giveaway and not be able to get it. But the flag, I know, is a big one on everyone's kid and adult list as one of those holy grail items. Another one that I've kind of revisited as a child that I always wanted, that was more attainable probably for me, was the Robotech Veritex, where you're actually able to put the pilot into the Veritech and it was transformable and all that good stuff. I really loved Robotech growing up. I have that cut out there of Robotech in wood there on the wall. And that was probably one of the first things I started drawing as a kid, were Veritex, oddly enough. I don't know why I picked that out of all the other things that would have been way easier for me to want to try to draw. That was definitely a toy that I would have loved to get in my hands.
What are some of your modern essentials? I mean, I realize some of those are probably going to be Super 7, but also expanded in terms of who are some of your favorite characters? Who are some of your favorite figures? If you can only pick 5 to be in your collection, which is an impossible task, who would those be?
Definitely an impossible task. Well, as you can see, like right next to my head here, it's almost where, because I've been collecting for so long, and because over time I felt like a lot of my collection just ends up in the garage, I've slowly started to pare down. So like with Transformers, I had a huge Optimus Prime collection because that's where I focused in on. Then I pared down from a lot of G1 and Optimus to combiners because I'm a giant robot guy. I love them robots. I can't help it. So I had a lot of combiners, and then I pared those down just to G1 combiners. I have a few right over here still. I have some more in the garage I got to pull out, dust off. I just have a lot of other random things that I've kind of collected over the years. That's where I'm really into the Transformers. I also love jumbo toys. I got into all the Titans. I've actually pared those down. I had Fortress Maximus. I don't know why I gave him away. I still regret it today. It's very good. Why did I do that? Because San Diego Comic-Con I've been going for so long. That's how I end up picking up most of those exclusive tie-ins there. You could see some of my other jumbos there with Gundam, which is another brand that I would love to make product for. And then we have Godzilla. I got to work on some of our Godzilla stuff as well. I have Gentle Giant jumbo Star Wars figures. Eventually, right, we get to that point where there's just layers behind layers behind layers of toys. So way back there are some jumbo Star Wars that are getting hidden by other jumbo characters. So I'm really into those jumbo figures. Oddly enough for me, like there's something about toys in particular, and I think it just ties back to my childhood and growing up with toys and really like appreciating them and loving those experiences I had with them, that most of my focus is on like toyetic collectibles, not so much high-end premium crazy statues or almost like hyper realistic character depictions like you see with Hot Toys and things like that. Lately I've mostly just been focused on something else that I'm really into, which is vinyl toys, just trying to collect out some of those. I haven't checked back to my wish list recently, but all of those are always running around 250, so it's tough. 250 plus, it's difficult to try to find that right balance, but I'm just slightly sporadic in my collecting, and I tend to be random. Whenever I just see the right opportunity, I just go for it. So it's pretty often where I just come home and I have Godzilla next to me, and it's just because I found a great deal on Godzilla and I had to get them. So off the top of my head, I can't think of one particular thing, but if it's a jumbo, if it's a giant robot, if it's a really cool soft vinyl, it's more than likely to end up in my collection around here.
I'm thinking too about, there's a character that comes to mind in terms of what you just described for the notion of the characters coming together, and the jumbo only overseas was it available, but it was the Turtle Saint. To me, that feels like a natural where it combines the awesomeness of the things of the different line. To me,
yeah, absolutely. And it's so amazing if you've ever been to Japan or like Tokyo, their love and appreciation for characters that they grew up with, and overall just the visual design, the language of anime and movies from like Studio Ghibli. And there was just so much more that they were always willing to try out there that was just so wacky and off the wall that was never going to make it to the US, but it was just like they're like precious gems, right, to us, and like rediscovering them, right? Maybe we didn't grow up with them because we were not in Japan and that stuff just didn't reach us, or as adults going back and finding like that amazing thing like Turtle Saints and being like, where have you been all my life? You are amazing, right?
Yeah, and I think you nailed it on the head there in terms of the access is so much greater now to be able to discover those things. But it's also, there was that time where there's bigger chances taken in terms of being able to just throw things at the wall, and that brought forward. Sometimes it was a hit and sometimes it was a miss, but a lot of times it was always fun. And that's like, we see that in certain places, but there seems to be less risk taken on certain things. And that's not something I see with Super 7. Super 7, I think, looks at that and says, you know what, this is still going to be a lot of fun. Sometimes it's worth taking that, and ultimately you're giving more opportunities for folks to be able to realize that this is something they like and they just don't know it yet.
Yeah, we're always looking for those opportunities, and sometimes we go back and forth like internally with us, like, do we like this, do we not like it? And it grows on us, and then we see like the potential for it. When we're able to kind of explore opportunities like that versus immediately shutting them down, it just allows us that opportunity to bring something cooler and unexpected. Like with our Transformers, I'm usually a Transformers guy who always leaves his Transformers in robot mode because I love robots. I was never really super into cars. Most of the kind of the core is always cars, right, with Transformers, especially the Autobots. Bringing to life characters in different ways that are completely unexpected, because it's a brand that has been around for almost 40 years getting there, right? So it's been done by Hasbro so many times, right, in so many different iterations that their continuity now, their storylines just completely destroyed and blown up, right? They have to bring in a multiverse aspect at this point to try to like reconcile all that stuff. It's great. At Super 7, we look at that and like, what's the opportunities? And there's also those third parties that do non-branded Transformers, right, that also do do some cool stuff. I have some as well as a collector. I don't collect a lot of third-party stuff because it gets pricey. And again, I'm really passionate about the robot mode, and they're giving me something that like it's cool. The transformed version of it, I'll do it once or twice, but then I'll go back in robot mode. I don't want to break it. I paid $300 for it, right? Then I'm gonna set it on the shelf and walk away slowly, right, to make sure it's safe, and my investment there is just staying in place. But I like to be able to get things and play with them and kind of make it unique, different, unexpected. And I think that's what a lot of fans have seen, and to a certain extent maybe not understood with our Transformers Ultimates line of how unique and different all the characters are that we've put into it.
Oh, and it's a blast. I don't know if you can see this. Well, this side, one of these sides. I got the Optimus behind me, and it's like, it was, first of all, this was an immediate buy because I loved that this was in a way that we haven't seen before, right? It was the whole wave, honestly. That Starscream is just gorgeous, and it's not just for the basketball, but the basketball is freaking fun. You know, it's just that, like, you're getting the scale guy in there too. You're getting a whole lot of extras in there that really show a love and appreciation for the property and also for the fans. You know, this is giving you things that you have maybe thought about wanting when you were a kid and never were able to get, and now it's like, here is a bunch of deep cuts that long timers will get and new fans will have fun with, even if they don't fully get it, you know?
There are definitely a lot of Easter eggs in that pack there behind you of an opportunity, especially for those new fans or the old fans, because there was a decent amount of episodes in broadcast TV. We never got to see all of them all the time. When you look at like a basketball, I don't get the basketball. What's the deal with the basketball? And then for the fans that know it's from a certain episode, they're able to recall and go back to it. If they don't know, then they go on Google, right, and they immediately look for the surfboard reference or like the Energon binders or whatever it might be. They're digging back in time. Like even the Ghost of Starscream, they're like, why is he clear and glittery? We don't get it. Like, what is this thing?
But wait, the real notice here is that he's clear and glittery.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely something, it's like, where are those opportunities in terms of colorways? That we've seen it all before with Hasbro, and it's great that they've let us into their sandbox and we get to play with their characters, right, and have this opportunity. So like, we do kind of work within certain bounds there in terms of what we can and can't do. Creating something new is something that we're always looking for, that opportunity with the brands we get to play with.
It shows. That's very evident, you know, as we've been watching these roll out. Major focus with the Transformers Ultimate line seems to be the characters and depictions that we've never had in toy form before. Is there a holy grail in your mind of never before in plastic that you hope to see or get to work with that line at some point? Not saying that this is happening now, but but just it's something to you that, you know, you're a longtime Transformers fan, you know, so I imagine you are a wellspring of memory on that whole franchise.
Great question. So honestly, there's some, I mentioned it earlier. It's tough with Transformers, I feel like, because everyone's digging through Transformers, trying to find like what hasn't been done before, right? But something definitely that I'm hoping to get to do is a Skyfire would be cool. So Skyfire, I guess, as a Jetfire, but literally calling it Skyfire, because we've done that before as a reaction figure. I know it's been done before, and I know there's been third-party iterations of that, but just going back for me, like how I grew up with Robotech and have a passion for that brand, like they just kind of mix the two, Transformers, Robotech, right there, created a child, and it was Jetfire. So I would love to bring like something like that, and that would be like probably an overscaled figure in our Ultimates line. That is something that I'm kind of looking back at as we kind of continue the line out a little further, is just filling out more of that G1 lineup in our characters. So that would be one. I would love to get into some of the female Transformers, because I think in Ultimates form, again, it would be something that would really do those figures justice basis. And that's a thing that maybe not all Transformers fans will understand, is in terms of all those extra rivets and joints and screw holes and all the stuff they have to do to Transformers to make them transform as well as hold that robot form. We're trying to avoid all that stuff because we just want that clean, amazing look that you grew up with a cartoon. So I think as much as there's been some really cool like RC characters, they still end up with like just this bulky backpack and back, or some other like parts and things that are kind of hinge awkwardly or hanging off the figure. They're really close, but because of the fact they're gonna have to transform, they have this extra baggage that they really kind of just bring them, for me personally, just a little short of being pretty amazing looking figures. And it's like the vehicle modes for those, especially like an RC, it's a cool looking futuristic car, but I don't want to show it off as a car. Come on.
If you are someone who really likes the transforming type of features, right? I mean, I guess it's in the name Transformers, but that's the point, is that if you want to be able to play with this character alongside other lines, which is what many folks did when they were younger, it's like, for me, I always wanted to have, I love the transforming, but at the same time, it was also cumbersome in terms of being able to like have the character stand upright and posable, and and
Yeah.
here it's like I can have Optimus, and I do, I mean right now, but I eventually will have him open on my shelf too, but standing side by side with the Turtles, with Silverhawks, with Thundercats, in like an epic team up, right? And that's something that you wouldn't be able to do as effectively if you didn't have the additional ability for posability here like this in such a captivating way.
And we've all kind of seen online that image, right, of all the best of the 80s cartoon characters. And to a certain extent, you're almost able to do that with most of our Ultimates line. You're able to fill in most of the blanks that are on those posters, those images of all those fan favorites there. In terms of Transformers, other ones that I really get into, or anything comics, some of the Transformers after the movie with the Wreckers crew. But
Yeah.
for me, I'd go probably too far into some of comic stuff as well. And I really like the different form factors that like Pretenders bring. I love two-headed robots. I think they're just so wacky and hilarious that I'd like, we got to do a double dealer, or like just in the Pretenders line, and also with some of the Wreckers that had two heads. Just thought those are pretty amazing. But again, not everyone is into those, so we do kind of have to reel it back at times, like, okay, are they really gonna get it, or are they just gonna think we're crazy? And sometimes they get it, and sometimes they think we're crazy, and we're okay with that.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question for you, was about the comics and about the different iterations that we've had, so many different iterations of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's fun for me to hear that you're also a big comic version guy. I used to watch the cartoon, but the comic is like where my experience was. I was big into comics at the time, and there were some really unique characters to the comics also. So it's like,
yeah, absolutely. And I've definitely been pouring through some of those old characters, and like old leaders of the Decepticons who came after Megatron, different things like that. You see it in Wave 2 with some of the comic inspired heads, like with Bludgeon has a comic inspired head. In Wave 4 for Transformers, spoiler alert, there will be one comic inspired head in that one as well. Again, like taking an old character and trying to add just a little extra to them that some fans will get and appreciate because they've seen it before, and other fans will be like, what is that? I don't get it. What's going on here? What is that thing?
But I mean, to me, that's exciting, right? Not just as a collector, but just in life, right? Where it's like, if I see something I'm not familiar with, I'm like, this is a conversation now. I get to learn about what this is and get a better appreciation for this line that I love. And that's the fun part of that, I think.
You see that with like Grimlock. When I worked on Grimlock, he's got a lot of fun accessories. But Alligatorcon in Wave 3. I like putting that one together. I was just like melting my brains every time. I'm like, oh, we're really doing this. There's a Decepticon tower with Optimus's arm and an ion blaster that is fully functional and posable and all that cool stuff. And just bringing things that are completely new and unexpected. The little extra head that you get of Optimus with the little decapitated robot guts coming out of it that you're able to plug into the head there. So all those fun little details, we're always trying to look for ways to squeeze those in and do the unexpected, because especially on Transformers, a lot has been done before on that one.
Do you have a favorite Decepticon and a favorite Autobot? That's, again, probably a very difficult question to ask. Because it's to limit it down to like, yeah, that's that one character is my favorite, right? When it's like,
yeah. There's definitely so many. Definitely a big Optimus fan, and like I said, I think Jetfire are two that are right up there. Optimus, I think for a lot of kids that were growing up with the cartoons, the original series, were just like something about that guy, Peter Cullen's voice. Who knows what it was that guy, man? He exuded confidence. And he, like, Optimus really showed it, and it was amazing. You knew if you were rolling out with him, you were good no matter what the circumstance was. Until the movie came out, but that's a different story there.
30-year-old spoiler, right? On
yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
In terms of Decepticon, I've always been more of an Autobot guy. So Decepticon's always tough to say. I guess it would be a toss-up between Megatron and Soundwave. But if I had to choose, or just like look at my shelf behind me, it definitely would be Soundwave, because I have way more Soundwaves than I do Megatrons. But it's like, who doesn't love a transforming robot that shoots robots out of him, right? It's like, come on, like turducken, right? A robot inside of a robot inside of a robot sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's a nesting doll of robots. It's wonderful.
That's right, yeah.
Was there anything that you wanted to show today from the Transformers? Anything that you think fans might appreciate seeing?
Yeah, definitely. All right, let me show you some Transformers here.
Sweet.
So here are two of the characters you've seen in Wave 1. All right, let's look at someone else here from Wave 2. So these are test shots fresh out of a mold. So they're a little bit loosey-goosey. But look at that.
Whoa.
There, look at how Optimus looks up to Grimlock there. Pretty amazing looking figure. This guy is a chunky boy. Honestly, I feel like people are going to be a little disappointed if they missed out on pre-ordering this guy. Let me move these other figures before they fall off. We'll just take a quick look at Grimlock so you can check him out. So he's a larger figure. Honestly, scaling a little closer to Mumra, I should say, if you're familiar with our Thundercats. He's got all his ton of articulation points. Doing my best here to try to bring in as much as possible. All these right now, they're still loose because they're a work in progress. His hands are swappable. You see all his different articulation points here in the torso. Those are swivels. You got his tail. He's huge. He's so heavy. He is an amazing figure that I'm very excited to get to share here. You could see that he is going to be amazing once he is complete. So that is Grimlock. He is coming soon, and I can't wait to put him in your hands.
Oh man, I can't wait to have him in my hands. That is like, I'm envisioning some pretty epic versus the Godzilla too that's coming. I mean, that's like
yes, and that's the fun part about what we do with Ultimates, right? You get to have this amazing mashup of characters and storylines and create your own, just fun and unique. That's one thing I appreciate with toy photography, all the cool different storylines and what ifs that are created from just bringing a bunch of toys together and posing them in all these crazy environments and scenarios and all that stuff. Definitely super excited for Grimlock. This Grimlock here, like I said, chunky boy, is actually scaling to about my masterpiece Grimlock. Grimlock is another favorite of mine. Had to get the masterpiece. I don't have too many masterpieces, but that was definitely one that I got, was Grimlock, and he's scaling about to that T-Rex mode.
It's a lot of figure, and that's gonna be a
Oh
fun.
yeah, that's why I said like, oh man, people are gonna be so sad, and I can't help but want to like every time I talk about him, I want to pick him up, hold him, caress him, and show him off because he's so amazing. He's coming with all those great accessories, apron, his like serving dish, and all the glasses and all that cool stuff. He is gonna be a lot of fun to play with, pose, and shoot photos of.
Heck yeah. Looking at that, this is one of those moments where I forget that I'm not actually with you, and I'm like, my turn.
Yeah.
I get to hold
I
him.
want to hold him. He's so amazing.
This is fantastic. I'm super excited for what's coming down the road here with Transformers. I mean,
Yeah,
for the ones I've been getting. Jumping to Silverhawks, I have a handful of favorite cartoons from when I was little, and by handful I mean thousands. But of my top, Silverhawks is on there, and I am super excited right now because some of those characters I have never seen in toy form, and the notion of being able to potentially get those at some point is like, I know that those are going to be hit. It's just a matter of probably when, and I know that when Super 7 is on it, it's going to look just gorgeous. So what I want to know, and this is, I guess, the first question I have, are you able to work on this and not have the hawk screech go through your head every time you hear the name? Were you a big Silverhawks fan when you were a kid? Are there some that are kind of like tippy top of your list too, that you're like, you want to get to, and you know that when you get there, it's like long time dreams come true kind of thing?
Growing up, I feel like I miss Silverhawks somehow. I don't know how I missed that one. But this is amazing part of what we get to do. I've watched every episode now many times. And like I'm now like a huge fan of Silverhawks just because of that, just because of all these characters. I'm like, again, like thinking back, like how did I not get this thing? And that's the downside of having to rely on broadcast TV and KB Toys for me to really get most of my toy exposure from. But I have to say the Silverhawks was definitely an unexpected love of mine here, getting to work on Silverhawks. The characters are so great. The form factors and the look of them, I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to ultimatize them. And absolutely, there are quite a few characters that I just can't wait to get to that we haven't. We've shared so far 3 waves of characters, and there's still the core that we need to fill in there of Silverhawks that we are absolutely gonna get into. There is also, obviously, I talk about the core that everyone knows and loves and understands, but there's actually way more, or I'd say at least 3 or 4 more Silverhawks that were lesser known that are out there that are still like huge potential, really cool looking characters and had their different moments and storylines within the couple seasons that would make amazing figures that we definitely see a lot of potential in. I'm trying not to spoil it because it's a little harder with Silverhawks. There was less characters compared to like Thundercats because there was more seasons there. Definitely some heroes that I'm looking to who's coming next in terms of heroes. I think we're definitely going to keep that formula that we've shared with having a couple heroes with a couple villains. In terms of the villains, there are a couple unexpected fan favorites there for me that I think others would really enjoy, and something maybe that looks a little gem inspired, maybe that could be definitely a must have that I feel like we should definitely do.
Music to my ears.
yeah, there's some nice little melodies we could get in there.
All right.
Hardware was another one that I'm thinking that could be pretty awesome, just because he's the tech guy, he's a gadgets guy, he's the one hooking up the mob with all their fun tech. How could you not spend the time to explore that guy? And then there's other characters within that. Yes Man's another guy that just is a goofy oddball. The mob boss always needs his yes man to be there, so plenty of potential there. The creature designs, the character designs there are so unique and different that we think fans will just appreciate them for that, even though Silverhawks feels like a little lesser known compared to like a Thundercats or TMNT, but definitely a lot to appreciate there.
Is there a way for them to get from place to place? So, some sort of space cab?
Now I don't know
shit.
if you're talking about Seymour or something else here, because there are space cabs there.
Yeah.
There's absolutely space cabs at Silverhawks, right? Yeah. But if there's another, maybe a larger thing, I think there would be an opportunity there. But if you look at some of the way that we articulate certain characters in Wave 3, we are looking ahead to any opportunity there, to any future cool things. And again, just like Thundercats, I think there was a couple really fun and unique smaller vehicles within that world that I think that we're hoping to get to.
Oh man, that's so exciting. Has there been a prototype that you've gotten back at this point that you've been the most impressed with from beginning to that stage?
Yeah, absolutely. From Wave 1, Monstar turned out to be an amazing figure. I feel like it was a right combination of figure scale, because he's huge, and the amount of his character design, his form factor lent to some really great opportunities for putting in some unique and different points of articulation for him, because he is a bit of a husky figure. So there are ways to sit him down in his throne and work around with all his armor and things like that. And just some unique points of accessories that are fitting onto his elbows. And his armor is just killer, right? All those spikes all over it. So super excited to be able to have that.
Yeah, Monster is always a favorite of mine. I mean, because he was such a fantastic character in and of himself, but he reminded me of a supersized Spike War,
Yeah, he's just literally a standout, right, from the cast, because he's towering over all of them.
Right. Well, I don't know how it shakes out to the monsterized mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, and that's another opportunity there. Yeah, definitely, where people remember him differently, maybe from obviously our Wave 3 release, but there is that version, his transformation. He was another character that had a transformation aspect to him. That would be a pretty awesome figure to get to make as well.
Absolutely. We didn't really get to jump on the worst, but there's some really fun characters that have been coming out of there too, that is just there. I think there was a thing that came out a while back that was the checklist for the worst, and I was like, oh. I like the reaction figures, but the ultimates are the ones that I'm like, okay, these are going up with my other characters. And so looking at the roster there, I'm just kind of don't know when it's coming, but when it's coming, it's going in my cart.
Yeah, exactly. There is a ton of really unique character types in the worst lineup that, I can't wait to get in there. So many good choices. Over time, definitely we'll get them all in there.
Well, lots to get excited about. There's so many fun ones that have been hinted at here, and there's been some fun ones that we've seen today. And I am so excited for what's coming around the corner. This has been such a fun chat and so fun nerding out with Super7's Mondo. So if there's anywhere else that folks can find you or find out more information on Super7, where would you tell them that would be the best place to do that?
The best place to find us is obviously super7.com. All the latest news is usually on Instagram. I'm following our Super7 official Instagram page. You could probably find me stalking most of your Super7 posts when you ever hashtag Super7 or Ultimates figures or hashtag reaction figures, anything TMNT, Thundercats related. You'll be able to probably find me liking and loving and commenting on whatever you might be posting there that's related to the figures and the product we make. It's always fun to talk geeky. That's all we do here. We see ourselves as toy nerds more than anything else. Everyone always sees us outside looking in whoa, those guys at Super7, they make all this cool stuff. Internally, we're oh, we're just geeks. We're toy nerds here, just passionate about what we do.
It's adding so much to the conversation. It's adding so much to the experience, and I appreciate it. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. We realize you could have been anywhere and you chose to nerd out with us, and we appreciate that. And while you're here, make sure to check out some of our other really cool videos we think that you'll appreciate quite a bit. And if you haven't already, make sure to sub, like, and share with any other folks you think would appreciate the kind of videos we're putting out. Thank you so much for coming on today. This is such a blast. Really appreciate you taking the time. And until next week, Super7 Speaky.
Keep it geeky.